supporting you in your dog parenting journey. The Dynamic Dog Owner with Debbie Potter.
Hello and welcome to The Dynamic Dog Owner, the podcast designed to support you, the dog parent, in your dog parenting journey. The podcast is aimed to help you. There's two sides of every dog relationship. We think that training is often something we do to our dogs, or we take our dog to training and they're the one that needs to do a lot of learning. But actually, we're a partnership, we're a team. And you as a person probably need to do just as much training on yourself as your dog needs, because there's two sides of the coin, there's two sides of the relationship. And therefore, we support the dog parents. The podcast is designed for you to look at training in a different way and to grow as a person and to help you. It's not about how to train dogs. But we do have our new Pawcademy, an online training hub, which is where we do train the dogs, where it's packed full of training videos of how to actually do these things, along with the group discussions and comments and support from us, as well as live Q&As where you can get your questions answered. So today's topic is kind of it's a phrase I hear, or something people say to me quite a bit. And I just wanted to talk about it really. A lot of people are under the misconception that their dog has to be perfect before they come to classes. So a phrase we hear often is, oh, my dog's too naughty to come to classes. So let's explore that topic. So why are dogs potentially seen as being too naughty for class? Firstly, I don't think dogs are ever naughty. Maybe I'm delusional, don't know. I don't think so. Dogs are never naughty. Dogs do what they need to do in the moment. They do what works. They do what achieves something. Generally, it's only naughty because we see it as something we don't want them to do. They do it because it's worked in the past, or it gets them what they need or want in that moment. It's just that it conflicts with us. And that's where we have the big culture clash. There's a book about called The Culture Clash, worth a read. And it's about how our two worlds collide. And that's often where we're not happy with what our dogs do, because we expect them to live in a human world and it kind of doesn't always marry up. So anyway, why would you think your dog is too naughty for class? So many people believe that a dog should be well behaved before they come to classes. Now, dog training is about learning together, growing together, learning new skills and improving. So if you look at that logic, well-behaved dogs don't need to come. But we are not expecting your dog to be perfect. As dog trainers, that's why you're coming. We expect you to have areas you want to improve. We expect them not to be 100%, because who's going to be? And if we have the mindset of that my dog's not good enough to come, then we're holding back the opportunity to learn and get better. So obviously some people then in that situation would opt for one-to-ones, because there's not that social pressure of my dog's the misbehaving one. But here's a few reasons why I think you shouldn't. Obviously, this isn't for everybody, and this is always general advice on the podcast because I don't know you and I don't know your dogs personally. So this advice might be for you, it might not be for you. But don't feel that your dog, in some situations, classes aren't right for dogs. So this isn't, every dog, every category. Sometimes group classes are not right for dogs just yet, because they are emotionally not able to cope with it. Dog training classes should be enjoyable for you and your dog. They shouldn't be putting them into too much stress, and they shouldn't be in a situation where they can't cope. So yes, they need to have that level, a certain level of emotional sort of content, I don't know what the word is, that certain level of kind of emotional, I can cope being around this many dogs and this many people without it causing me too much stress. So highly reactive dogs, really, really nervous dogs, or dogs that get very, very over-aroused. Yes, the group class might not be right for you right now, but doesn't mean to say it won't be in the future. Often, combination of group classes plus individual support is where the happy equilibrium lies. So yes, if a group class setting is going to be stressful and emotionally challenging for your dog, it's not the right place. But if your dog is just learning how to behave, and is a puppy doing puppy things, or a teenager doing teenage things, the occasional barking at other dogs, not excessively, but just like, hey, woof. Those things are okay. Because if they're not put into situations where you can practice, then obviously they're never going to learn. So group classes aren't for everyone right now, but there's always a space for everyone. We have a reactive dog group class, and everyone goes, oh my goodness, it's going to be awful. The dogs are brilliant. They learn how to coexist in the space together despite being reactive, and it's the stepping stone from I can't cope into group classes. So, there's transitions that we work through. But dogs aren't naughty or too naughty to come to class. So don't think that your dog has to be perfect before you join group training, whether that's with us or somebody else. And it's not about whether it embarrasses everybody else in the class. It's not about whether it's a disruption. A lot of people say, oh, I'm sorry, my dog barked. I'm like, I didn't even notice, because dogs bark. As long as it's not a scared, fearful, aggressive, reactive, overwhelmed bark, and it's just, hey, I'm having a good time, or wow, there was a pigeon, woof, frustration barks, etc. They're okay. That's not a problem. Oh, my dog pulled too much, they couldn't come to class, or they found it hard to ignore the other dogs, but they still did it and could engage with you. So our rule is always that if your dog is able to engage with you, despite the other dogs and people being there, and are able to embrace learning and not be so overwhelmed that they can't cope, then the group classes is fine. So don't worry if your dog isn't doing it beautifully yet, because that's what classes are for. And again, it builds back to that community that we talked about last week, that it's not just about you, it's your dog. Group training is actually for you as well, because you get to talk to other people, you get to share experiences, and you get to practice in a controlled setting where everyone's working towards a common goal. And I think that's really important. So dogs don't have to be perfect to come. They have to have a certain level where they can embrace the class, absolutely, because otherwise you're not going to get anything from it, because it then borders into sort of putting your dog into a stressful situation and then coping and surviving rather than thriving. And that's where the sweet spot lies, and we need to get that right. So most dogs are fine in group classes, or at least talk to your trainer, talk about it first to make sure that they're in the right class. We have classes that we know aren't great for dogs who maybe need, are transitioning or, overwhelmed in certain situations because it's a busy class, or it's on a Saturday where we have 3 classes running at the same time. So we go, okay, you're a little bit nervous, come in the week when there's only 1 class running. So the environment's better. We can pick which time is right for you, or we can pick an activity or a class that's right for you. Because if dogs are a little bit nervous or a little bit overexcited, a class that requires a lot of thought, they're already going to find challenging because they're already coping with their environment and sort of having to work harder to focus on their human than a dog who isn't overwhelmed by other people and dogs. So there's a space for everyone. You just have to talk to your trainer and find that. But please, please, please don't be put off thinking that you are not welcome at classes because your dog isn't perfect enough, because that is not the case. All dogs are welcome at training, no matter where their training journey lies, because what looks naughty as a puppy is often just a really good thing for dogs to work through. And as I always say, if your puppy or your dog behaves beautifully throughout the whole of our training class, what are you learning? Yeah, it's easy, don't get me wrong, but what are you learning? If they then go home and do all the stuff that you can't cope with or find really overwhelming, don't know how to deal with it, we're not here, we can't see it. So if you come to class and your dog isn't perfect and is struggling, we can say, hey, this is how you work through it. This is the steps you need to go through. Why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? You then learn how to actually work through the challenging behaviour rather than going, hey, my dog was perfectly well behaved here, but they were awful at home. It helps you to learn skills in a safe environment to then transfer into your real world. So dogs cannot be too naughty to come to class. They just have to find the right class for them. So don't be put off training thinking that your dog isn't perfect yet. What is perfect anyway?
Thank you for listening to The Dynamic Dog Owner with me, Debbie Potter. See you next time.